Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Recall that is hypothesized to work by storing the original stimulus input and reproducing it during recall. The act of making copies. Gutenberg's reproduction of holy texts was far more efficient. The sexual activity of conceiving and bearing offspring. Copy that is not the original, something that has been copied. The process of generating offspring. Recall that is hypothesized to work by storing the original stimulus input and reproducing it during recall. The act of making copies. Copy that is not the original, something that has been copied. The repetition of a sound resulting from reflection of the sound waves. A quick reply to a question or remark, especially a witty or critical one. Genetics, the process whereby DNA makes a copy of itself before cell division. Law, a pleading made by a plaintiff in reply to the defendant's plea or answer. The repetition of an experiment in order to test the validity of its conclusion. Scientists will not believe an experimental result until they have seen at least one replication. The sexual activity of conceiving and bearing offspring. The result of good upbringing, especially knowledge of correct social behavior. A woman of breeding and refinement. Elegance by virtue of fineness of manner and expression. Helping someone grow up to be an accepted member of the community. Producing offspring or set aside especially for producing offspring. The breeding population. The production of animals or plants by inbreeding or hybridization. The sexual activity of conceiving and bearing offspring. The sexual activity of conceiving and bearing offspring. Copy that is not the original, something that has been copied. The process of remembering, especially the process of recovering information by mental effort. A mental impression retained and recalled from the past. Cause to be returned. Recall the defective auto tires. Recall knowledge from memory. Have a recollection. Call to mind. Go back to something earlier. Summon to return. The ambassador was recalled to his country. The process of remembering, especially the process of recovering information by mental effort. He has total recall of the episode. A request by the manufacturer of a defective product to return the product, as for replacement or repair. A bugle call that signals troops to return. A call to return. The recall of our ambassador. Cause one's, or someone else's, thoughts or attention to return from a reverie or digression. She was recalled by a loud laugh. Make unavailable. Bar from sale or distribution. The company recalled the product when it was found to be faulty. The act of removing an official by petition. The ability to recall past occurrences. The process of remembering, especially the process of recovering information by mental effort. Something recalled to the mind. An act of copying. The properties that distinguish organisms on the basis of their reproductive roles. She didn't want to know the sex of the fetus. Activities associated with sexual intercourse. They had sex in the back seat. All of the feelings resulting from the urge to gratify sexual impulses. He wanted a better sex life. Stimulate sexually. Either of the two categories, male or female, into which most organisms are divided. The war between the sexes. Tell the sex of young chickens. Activities associated with sexual intercourse. Activities associated with sexual intercourse. Activities associated with sexual intercourse. A reproduction of a written record, e.g. of a legal or school record. Matter to be printed, exclusive of graphical materials. Reproduce or make an exact copy of. Copy the genetic information. Make a replica of. Copy that drawing. Reproduce someone's behavior or looks. Children often copy their parents or older siblings. A thing made to be similar or identical to another thing. She made a copy of the designer dress. Copy down as is. The students were made to copy the alphabet over and over. Material suitable for a journalistic account. Catastrophes make good copy. A process occurring in living organisms. A process occurring in living organisms. The act of systematically moving a finely focused beam of light or electrons over a surface in order to produce an image of it for analysis or transmission. The process of translating photographs into a digital form that can be recognized by a computer. The reproduction of sound. The act of producing offspring or multiplying by such production. An arithmetic operation that is the inverse of division, the product of two numbers as computed. The multiplication of 4 by 3 gives 12. A multiplicative increase. Repeated copying leads to a multiplication of errors. The act of producing offspring or multiplying by such production. The spreading of something, a belief or practice, into new regions. The movement of a wave through a medium. Reproduction by parents of different races, especially by white and non-white persons. Genetics. The act of mixing different species or varieties of animals or plants and thus to produce hybrids. A coming into being. The act of producing offspring or multiplying by such production. All the people living at the same time or of approximately the same age. A stage of technological development or innovation. The third generation of computers. Group of genetically related organisms constituting a single step in the line of descent. The normal time between successive generations. They had to wait a generation for that prejudice to fade. The production of heat or electricity. Dams were built for the generation of electricity. Reproduction by parents of different races, especially by white and non-white persons. Genetics. The act of mixing different species or varieties of animals or plants and thus to produce hybrids. Reproduction by parents of different races, especially by white and non-white persons. Manipulate manually or in one's mind or imagination. Any of several breeds of very small dogs kept purely as pets. A copy that reproduces a person or thing in greatly reduced size. An artifact designed to be played with. Behave carelessly or indifferently. Engage in an activity as if it were a game rather than take it seriously. Toy with an idea. A device regarded as providing amusement. Private airplanes are a rich man's toy. A non-functional replica of something else, frequently used as a modifier. A toy stove. Reproduction without the fusion of gametes. Reproduction involving the union or fusion of a male and a female gamete. Union of sperm and egg in sexual reproduction. Reproduction without the fusion of gametes. Reproduction involving the union or fusion of a male and a female gamete.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.